She walked onto the screen without fanfare. No orchestral build-up. No shadowy prophecy. Just a woman caught between two identities. One tethered to power, the other tied to perception. And from that moment on, everything changed. What seemed like simplicity was actually strategy. We didn't know what to make of her. She wasn't tortured enough. She wasn't tragic enough. She laughed too much. She broke the fourth wall. She broke tradition. And in doing so, she broke us. The audience expected a path they could predict, and she gave them chaos with a smile. She-Hulk didn't just challenge the genre, she hijacked it, flipped it inside out, pulled the curtain back on everything we took for granted, from the formula, to the fandom, to the fragile definition of what it means to be heroic. She asked us to stop watching and start questioning. It was disruption disguised as humor. People mocked her before they even met her. They clipped scenes and called it proof. They hated what she represented, because what she represented was a threat. A threat to the idea that superheroes must suffer to be taken seriously, that joy is a weakness, that self-awareness is a flaw. They didn't critique her, they tried to erase her. But buried under every joke was a message. Not just about gender or fame, but about us. About what we demand. About what we destroy. About how fast we reject something that doesn't echo what we've already seen 1,000 times. Her story was never about smashing villains. It was about surviving judgment. And she did it with more honesty than most heroes ever manage. In this video, we're going to peel back every layer of She-Hulk's story, explore why it was never about fan service, why the finale wasn't a betrayal but a revelation, and how this misunderstood satire may be the most honest thing Marvel has ever created. The truth is, She-Hulk didn't fail us. We failed her. There's something oddly magnetic about She-Hulk that people overlooked the moment it aired. It didn't try to fit the mold. It didn't chase cinematic grandeur or gritty spectacle. It leaned into chaos with a smirk and asked us to think deeper about what we expect from superheroes. From the very first episode, it whispered that it wasn't going to play by the rules. Instead of posturing as a traditional Marvel story, it cracked open the fourth wall and let us watch the gears turn. She-Hulk wasn't confused about what it was. It knew it was a comedy, a courtroom dramedy, a social commentary. And it wore that chaos proudly like a badge of satire. Every joke, every awkward moment, every seemingly lost scene, they were all calculated to reflect something uncomfortable. They weren't lazy, they were mirrors. Mirrors showing how quickly we turn on something that challenges our formulaic comforts. Think about how quickly the hate poured in. Not because of bad writing, but because it wasn't what fans ordered. She-Hulk called out the audience before the audience even had time to breathe. It anticipated every complaint and baked it into the structure. The show literally predicted the backlash and wrote it into the finale. That's not sloppy. That's genius. This wasn't a show that misunderstood its assignment. It was a show that tore the assignment up and made its own, in a sea of content, trying to be darker, edgier, more epic. She-Hulk asked, what happens when a story doesn't care about being any of that, and instead cares about what stories are allowed to be? People trashed this show like it betrayed them personally, as if every scene had to serve their exact expectations, as if every Marvel entry had to be a stepping stone for some multiverse explosion. But She-Hulk didn't owe anyone that. It existed to break patterns, not reinforce them. The irony is, the same fans who cry about innovation also scream when something breaks the cycle. They ask for new tones, fresh angles, unexpected voices. But the second they get one, they throw it out for not being what they've already seen. That's not criticism, that's hypocrisy. The trolling wasn't clever. The review bombing wasn't analytical. It was noise. Loud, defensive noise from people who didn't want their expectations challenged, who couldn't handle a superhero who didn't punch her way through trauma or monologue about fate every 5 minutes. And yet, She-Hulk anticipated every word of it. The finale didn't just break the fourth wall, it shattered the entire formula and mocked the idea that Marvel fans could never be pleased. It said the quiet part out loud, that the fandom had become part of the problem. And that stung. This wasn't a failure in storytelling. It was a rejection of lazy consumption. The show dared to say we might be too entitled as an audience. And the response only proved the point. It's honestly kind of sad how fast the internet turned this into a punching bag. Not just criticism, but mockery. Personal attacks. The kind of vitriol that doesn't just reject an idea, tries to erase it from the conversation completely. Tatiana Maslany gave a performance full of vulnerability, humor, restraint, and self-awareness. But you wouldn't know it from how people talked about her. The discourse reduced everything down to thumbnails, and thumbnails reduced it further into hate bait. People didn't watch the show to engage with it. They watched it to hate it. To clip moments out of context and spin them into outrage. To pretend one twerk scene ruined everything, as if nuance died the second they opened Twitter. You could feel the weight behind the humor. You could see the loneliness behind the confidence. She-Hulk wasn't just making jokes, she was surviving judgment, holding it together while being constantly dissected by people who didn't want her to exist. It wasn't just satire, it was a cry. A quiet, clever scream buried beneath punchlines, and most people never even heard it. The meta finale was one of the boldest things Marvel has ever done. A character literally walking out of her show, confronting the writers, challenging the studio itself. That's not just breaking the fourth wall, that's setting it on fire and building something new with the ashes. And what did she do with that power? She didn't erase her enemies. She didn't demand a bigger CGI battle. She asked for closure, for peace, for a life that didn't have to explode in slow motion just to be valid. It reframed the idea of heroism, not as something you earn through violence or loss, but something you define for yourself. She-Hulk wasn't weak for wanting happiness. She was strong for refusing to let trauma be her entire arc. That takes guts. That takes vision. That takes a showrunner willing to bet everything on the idea that satire can matter, that stories can say more when they whisper than when they scream. It wasn't a finale for the masses. It was a finale for the future, for people ready to see what storytelling can become when it's not afraid to challenge the mold. There's still a chance for people to come back to this, to re-watch with different eyes, to hear what they missed the first time. Not every story needs to land the first punch. Sometimes it lands the last one. Younger audiences might find it years from now and see what it was trying to do. They'll spot the layers, the patterns, the satire hidden beneath the sass, and they'll wonder how we missed it the first time. She-Hulk wasn't trying to be perfect. It was trying to be real, messy, flawed, honest, and maybe that's what makes it timeless instead of trendy. It planted a seed, not just in storytelling, but in how we view our relationship to media, to creators, to characters who don't exist to please us but to reflect us, if we're lucky. This will be one of those shows people talk about a decade from now. The one we didn't get, but finally understood when we were ready. In the end, She-Hulk became a cautionary tale. Not about what happens when you try something new, but what happens when you dare to mock the system from within. It was a show built on reflection, and most people smashed the mirror instead of facing it. It told us everything we needed to hear, and we laughed at the wrong moments. We scoffed at sincerity. We mistook brilliance for clumsiness, and we missed the heart beating underneath all the meta jokes. She-Hulk could have played it safe, could have gone full origin story with a villain arc and a tragic finale. But it chose joy, it chose irreverence, it chose to smile while everyone else scowled, and that scared people more than any monster could. Maybe it wasn't meant to win over everyone, maybe it was meant to lose on purpose, to see who could look past the surface and recognize a revolution dressed as a sitcom, a Trojan horse with green skin and glitter. And if you're still here, still thinking, then maybe that's what matters most. Maybe it worked after all. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video, blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows, and Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games like The Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.